welcome to another episode of 300 Voices in 300 Days. I'm your host, Tyrone Darden. This is TAN TV, African American Network. We have one of our 300 Voices with us. He is a very, very prominent member of our community in several facets, but we're going to let him give us the quick 30 to 60 second spiel on his introduction. But without further ado, Dr. Kenneth Kemp.
Hello. Thank you so much. I'm Kenneth Kemp, as you mentioned. I'm the pastor of the Antioch Missionary Baptist Church, and I also happen to be a pulmonary and critical care doctor.
Yes, sir. That was quick, and like he said, he covered a lot. So let's talk about the faith-based aspect of your daily walk. So
Right.
Antioch Baptist Church is one of the historic churches in our community, the African American community, one of the most known churches. And there, over the years, at least in my 38 years, Antioch has done a lot for the African American community in regards to services, in regards to programs, in regards to outreach. If you could share with our viewers Antioch's role, past, present, and hopefully in the future.
Well, Antioch, as you point out, has always been a community-based church.
Mm-hmm.
We feel that part of our ministry is to make sure that we are involved in ministry that matters in our community, in our homes, as well as our church. And so in the past, we've been involved in things like the Antioch Village, which was constructed for persons who were meeting challenges and getting residences in the city of San Antonio. We've been involved in spring break activities to bring in all of the kids from all over the city to kind of keep kids off the streets during very critical times, particularly spring break. Youth United Against Drugs and Gangs is another organization that we were involved in. We've been involved in education with the Antioch Christian Academy, and on and on and on and on. Those are things we've done in the past. What we're doing presently, we are involved in feeding the hungry, as well as periodically checking HIV status of persons in our community. We're still integrally involved in promoting education, promoting health and wellness. So a myriad of things that we try to do.
Excellent. And so Antioch has done so much for our community over the years and is doing a lot. But if anyone who's familiar with where Antioch is, it's on Walter Street in the area that we call the Wheatley Courts area. And it's changing. It's changing. And with these changes, the faith-based community, specifically Antioch and all the surrounding faith-based entities, are going to have to play a critical role, not only in welcoming the people back that were there, but also the new people that are coming, but even more importantly, sustaining the growth and sustaining the rehabilitation and the new and the fresh paint that's there. How do you see, as a leader in that community, Antioch and other faith-based communities kind of supporting those positive efforts around the church?
Well, first of all, we are involved in an area that could very well be considered an area of gentrification.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that there are a number of new residences being built with, of course, the aid of the city and federal government. The United Way is involved in some of that as well. We're in the middle of the promise zone. So with that, there are numerous changes occurring in our community. We recognize that we have to be a stabilizing force to provide spiritual awareness and spiritual growth and nurturing in that environment. Now, we're not going anywhere.
Yes, sir.
We've made up our minds that we've staked our place out on the east side of San Antonio, and we're not planning on going anywhere. But we do want to be adapt. We want to adapt to the changes in our community. We do want to make sure that with the changes, persons who have been displaced or pushed out, that they are welcomed back in when and if those opportunities avail themselves. And we all have to hopefully adjust so that we can provide educational services as well as perhaps even childcare services, and of course, always spiritual services.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And all those things are like you said, crucial for the community to sustain the growth. And even with gentrification, some people can look at it as a negative thing,
Mm-hmm.
others as a positive thing. At the end of the day, if it's coming and we want to be a part of the conversation, we have to have our stake there. We have to have
Exactly.
our position as well. So I think that's a beautiful thing to see. Antioch has been there, is there, and continues to be there in support of the growth in our community.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, so there's so much that is going on. I mean, we can talk about so much. We can talk about Antioch's role in professional sports,
Yes.
and we can talk about the role that Antioch and past leaders and you yourself have played in not necessarily politics specifically, but
Mm-hmm.
in how politics affect our community.
Right.
With all of that, over the years, and I know you're a student of our community, you're a student of our culture. Who are some of those trendsetters, some of those forefathers, some of those people that came before me, but before you too, that
Mm-hmm.
set the tone? And is there a difference today in how we operate culturally with politics, with business, and things like that, from your vantage point?
Okay, so when we talk about politics in the church, sometimes it causes a little bit of angst for some people.
Yes, sir.
Because they say, well, the church shouldn't be in
Yes, sir.
politics. But we believe that Jesus was a political figure,
I agree.
and he was involved in making sure that the community was being receptive to the needs of the people.
Yes, sir.
And so we are vitally involved in socio-political issues, not because we're trying to interject ourselves in that conversation, but simply because we are who we are.
Yes, sir.
And we don't want to have our people, our culture, our traditions being overlooked, to become invisible. You know, we're seeking to not be in that kind of position. So when we think of the faith-based community involved in politics historically, you have to talk about Claude Black.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Of course, Reverend Claude Black, who's pastor of Mount Zion First Baptist, was integrally involved in advancing socio-political issues from an African-American perspective in the city. He served on the city council as mayor pro tem. I think anybody who's been in San Antonio for any length of time that is your age or my age,
Yes, sir.
we've heard about Claude Black.
Yes, sir.
And so he is a great model to look to. And then, of course, Reverend Dr. E. Thurman Walker, who was pastor of the Antioch Church before me. And we know of some of the great things he did, and including starting the Community of Churches for Social Action. He was integral in starting the Youth United Against Drugs and Gangs. Just today, I was involved in a conversation with city and county officials concerning the Wheatley Heights Sports Complex,
Yes, sir.
which he was integral in getting started and brought to our community. So those are some of the leaders. Of course, I could go on and on and on. We should include in that conversation J.J. Rector.
Yes, sir.
J.J. Rector, in a different way, impacted our community. A tremendous preacher, a tremendous singer, who embraced people who would not normally be considered church folk, and would bring them into to the church and nurture them and help them grow and expand their horizons. And that kind of nature of Antioch still permeates the idea of reaching out to the lost, the forlorn, the overlooked. We still do that.
Yes, sir.
And that's a legacy of J.J. Rector.
And you're right. The legacy is one of the things that we can put our finger on and say, this is what allows us to say, this person didn't just live, he lived for others, and these were the contributions. And we can look at Pastor Rector and Pastor Black, and so many others,
Right.
and even us, those of you watching us, and even us here sitting here, we'll have a legacy one day. And we have to think about, not what did we do, but what did we do for others.
Yes, absolutely.
Transition a little bit. So all my preacher friends, I call them doctor. I guess that's just something I say or something we say. But you're literally a real doctor, a medical doctor.
Yes.
I'm sure you can tell so many stories, but from a different standpoint, I think it's something key that maybe our viewers maybe want to hear. In 2017, a lot of the young people, however you consider young, school age, college age, or even upwards to 40, aren't pursuing those professional careers like lawyer, like doctor, teacher, engineer, architect, or even the vocational careers like a plumber, a pipe fitter, HVAC, whatever those situations are. It seems like we're, in a mode for arts, entertainment, things like that. From your vantage point, because you, as a pastor, you deal cradle to grave, and
Right.
and you have the opportunity to put your hands on these young people and their families. Is there a disconnect from how it was and how it is, and if so, what is it?
Well, that's a tough question. I do believe that sometimes our children and young adults become frustrated
Okay.
with the system,
Okay.
with delayed gratification,
Mm-hmm.
with obtaining education and training. And so sometimes they get away from that and try something that's
Gotcha.
maybe that's perceived to be easier. A prime example would be a young man who has great potential, but he decides he wants to be a rapper.
Yes, sir.
Okay, he wants to be Jay-Z, but there are only a few Jay-Z's out there. Actually, there's only one. And you may not make it
Yes, sir.
as a rapper. Or often I'll speak to little kids when we're bringing them into the church, and they've been baptized, and we're introducing them to the church family. And I ask them, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And they'll often say, "Well, I want to be a basketball player. I want to be a football player," because that's what they see, and
Yes,
that's
sir.
what is attractive to them. And I'll ask them, "Well, what if you don't become a basketball player?" And there are a lot of great athletes that never become professional athletes.
Yes,
So
sir.
what else might you want to do if you were an athlete? I had one young lady said, "Well, if I didn't make it as a basketball player, I'd just practice harder." But the reality is, not everyone's going to make it in the arts and entertainment field. So what we have to do is encourage our young people to continue to stay in school, to continue to do well in school, and then to have a perspective that's beyond what might be a small world in their minds at that time. We have to get them to understand that there's more, and you can do more. You can achieve. That's a constant thing that I say to our young folks.
Yes,
You can
sir.
do this.
You can do this.
Others have done it. You can too.
You can too.
So you have to buckle down and get to it, but you can do it.
You can do it. And I like that you can do this. Others have done it, and you can too. I think that's something that we all can remember and kind of live by, whatever our goals and aspirations are. If someone else has done it, you can too. And guess what? If no one else has done it, you can be the first one. So somebody else can say, he did it, so I can too. And I think that's a phenomenal and profound way of thinking about accomplishing your goals. So on the other side of it, what was your route to getting that, both sides of it, both facets of it? Well, I know part of it is military.
Yeah.
And so you got the military piece, you have your doctor as well, but then also the faith-based piece. How did all that come together? Was there some inspirations? Were there some models in front of you? How did you get here?
That's a great question, because I didn't have any models for what I'm doing now.
Wow.
It just, the Lord directed it so that it turned out like it did. But I grew up in a very devout family.
Okay.
My mother and father took us to church on a regular basis.
Okay.
So I learned to be a young man growing up as a boy in the church. And so being a part of the church was and continues to be part of who I am.
Yes, sir.
Well, along the way, I was blessed to do well academically,
Mm-hmm.
and there were some people who invested in me.
Okay.
Some teachers, some counselors, some principals who said, you got something, and we want to help you get to where you need to be. My parents didn't go to college.
Okay.
I had no aunts or uncles that had finished college. And I grew up in a very small town.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw no African-American doctors. But I had people who invested in me. That's the key. Somebody said, you can do it. And we'll help you get there.
Yes, sir.
And so with those persons who invested in me, I was able to go on to college. I left high school a year early because I went to a very small school,
Okay.
a very small community. And at the 11th grade, in fact, my superintendent wanted me to leave at the 10th grade, but
Wow.
in the 11th grade, when my mother was okay with it, I went ahead and applied for an early admission to college. I went to the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. And then while there, I thought I was going to be a lawyer.
Okay.
I was going to go in speech and dramatic arts or something like
Gotcha.
that. I had a gift for speaking and acting. And so I thought that's what I would do. But after a semester of doing it, I realized that's really not who I am. I had been studying the sciences, and I just decided that I was going to major in biology, thinking I would either go into research science or I would go into medicine.
Gotcha.
I had a great mentor, Dr. William MacArthur, who's resting with the Lord now. But Dr. MacArthur helped me and encouraged me to apply to medical school.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think I was going to be a doctor, not a medical doctor. That wasn't something that I thought about going to college. Mm-hmm. But after he helped me, I thought, well, okay, let's try this. And I got accepted. I was in ROTC. And so I got a deferment while I went to medical school.
Mm-hmm.
And when I finished medical school, I went into the military.
Gotcha.
And that background of having been in the church,
mm-hmm.
having developed in the church, stayed in me.
Mm-hmm.
So even while I was doing residency and doing my thing in the military, I had to find a church. And the church I found in San Antonio was the Antioch Missionary Baptist Church.
Wow.
Under J.J. Rector at the time.
Okay.
E. Thurman Walker was a youth minister. And after about 3 years, I finally acknowledged the call that the Lord had on my life to be a preacher. I remember very well, I said to the congregation, I chose medicine, I chose the military, but God chose me. Mm. And so I went ahead and I worked on that with the help of people who invested in me. Mm. J.J. Rector, E. Thurman Walker. They put their arms around me. And I guess the rest is history.
Rest is
the Lord
history.
worked it out.
Yes, sir. And that's a great way to kind of close out that piece of it. Because for those who don't know, the purpose, the goal of 300 Voices in 300 Days is to share with the community. And the community is global with the internet and technology. Mm-hmm. The many accomplishments that African Americans have made, are making, and will make, not only in this community in San Antonio, but around the globe. Mm-hmm. And so the question I ask for you in your own words, and I know you don't have a problem giving them, why do you feel like it's important for our story to be shared?
Wow, I believe it's extremely important for our story to be shared because our children coming after us need to be able to see the possibilities that are before them. Not only that, but all of our community, all of the state of Texas and the nation of the United States, all of those persons need to know that people of color have done some amazing things, and we cannot simply disregard them.
Yes.
We have to be sure that the story is told. Now, That's an American story. It's not an African American story.
Yes.
It's an American story. And those persons who have worked hard, served their family, served their God, left a legacy, those persons need to be lifted up as models for our children, for our community.
Well, it's been a joy sitting and talking to you, Doctor. Literally, Doctor.
Bless you.
Antioch is a great place, and all the different organizations birthed out of Antioch serve the community well. I know you didn't start them, and I know you won't end them, but serving right now, I want to say the community is thankful, and just keep doing what you're doing, Doctor.
Well, bless you. Thank you for allowing me to come and share.
Yes, sir. With that being said, hope you guys have enjoyed this. I definitely have. This has been one of our 300 Voices over 300 days. Tune in to TAN TV, the African American Network. I'm your host, Tyrone Darden. Hope to see you again.